Guys, today we're going to standardize NaOH. So the goal of this lab is that you titrate an unknown acid with NaOH in order to find something about that unknown acid. Sometimes it's the concentration of the acid, sometimes it's the molar mass, something like that. So in order to titrate your unknown acid with the base, you need to know what the concentration of the base is. And so we call this the standardization of the base. What we do is we titrate the base with a standard, usually a solid acid, in order to find exactly what the concentration of the NaOH is. And you want to do that standardization right before you do your unknown titration, like a day before or something like that, because NaOH, when it sits, it absorbs moisture, and so the concentration of it changes over time. So in order to do the standardization, the first thing you want to do is you want to prep your burette. So the burettes look like this, and this stopper comes off, goes in. When it's parallel like this, that means it's open. It's going to let the solution out. When it's perpendicular, that means it's closed. So the first thing you want to do is rinse it with water. For two reasons. First, to clean it, and then also to make sure the stopper is working. So you want to get distilled water. You can use regular water as well, tap water. And you want to kind of like move this to the sides like that, so that way the water kind of rinses the sides of your burette. And then you want to open the valve, let some of the water out, and then you can let the rest of it out from the other side, just because you don't want to take it too long. So now it is rinsed, but there are some drops of water here. So if I add my base right now to the burette, it's going to be a little bit dilute because of the extra drops of water. So the next step is to dilute your, rinse your burette with my base that I'm going to use. So here's my base in the Florence flask. I'm going to invert it a few times, make sure it's all mixed together. And even throughout. And for me, the easiest way to transfer the base into the burette is using a small beaker because it has a small spout. So I'm going to rinse my burette now with my base. So I'm going to pour a little bit of my base in here, as you can see, and I'm going to let some of it out so that this is rinsed with the base. And then I'm going to kind of move it around to get all the sides as well. Open the valve to let any extra out. And now it's rinsed with my base. So any little droplets of liquid that are left are from the base, so that way it wouldn't dilute my base. And then now I'm going to fill the burette with my base. You can fill it to any volume that you would like, as long as you record your initial volume. Most people like to fill it up to 0.00. and record that as their initial volume. That way, when they record the final volume, the subtraction is a little bit easier. So that's what I like to do as well. I like to fill it up to 0.00. It's easy. It's hard to pour it to exactly 0.00. So then you can use a pipette at the end to get it closer. Since I'm short and you need to be eye level with it to measure it, I pull my stand close to the table, the edge of the table, and I pull it down so that I'm eye level with it, and then I can use the pipette to get it to as close to 0.00 as possible. Again, you don't have to do that. Whatever measurements you have, you can just record that. Okay, my burette is ready. So now I'm going to prep my acid. This is my base. My acid goes in the Erlenmeyer flask, and we're using potassium hydrogen phthalate for our acid. And so you're going to mass your acid, and then get your acid, which is in a weigh boat, and you're going to transfer that into your Erlenmeyer flask. So I fold it a little bit, pour it in. And sometimes there's still a little bit of solid on your weigh boat, so you can use a little bit of distilled water, move it around, pour that in. You can do that a couple of times if you would like. And then it says to add a certain amount of water to it so that it can dissolve. You don't actually have to measure how much water you're adding. As you can see, I'm not measuring it. The amount of water that you're adding is irrelevant. The only reason we're adding water is just to get the solid to dissolve so it can react with the base. The amount of acid that you have, you get that from the mass, and you have the molar mass, so you can get the moles. So it doesn't matter how much water I add, the moles will be the same. And the idea here is that if I have the moles of the acid and I keep adding base to it until it reaches the equivalence point, then I can go from the moles of the acid to the moles of the base using my equation. Now that I have moles of the base, I can measure how much base I used. And if I have moles of the base and the volume of the base, I can find the concentration of the base by dividing the moles over the volume. You want to swirl until it all dissolves. And you want to add just 1 or 2 drops of the indicator. In this case, I'm using phenolphthalein. Phenolphthalein is colorless in acidic and neutral solutions, and it is a pink color in a base. So we're going to add base to this until it turns just a hint of pink. The lightest pink we can get, the best. So we call it a kiss of pink is what we're looking for. So we're going to keep swirling until it all dissolves. And since I'm looking for the slightest hint of pink, I like to put a white piece of paper underneath my flask. That way it's easier for me to detect it as soon as I see it. So I'll lift this up so that it's right above my flask here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this to dispense the base. And as long as I don't see pink lingering, that's a good speed. So you want to open it up and swirl at the same time. If I don't swirl, you see some pink. So you want to keep swirling, and you can keep adding as long as the pink is not lingering. As long as you can swirl fast enough that it stays kind of colorless, then you're good. If the pink starts lingering, then that means you're going too fast, so you need to kind of slow it down. So now I'm slowing it down a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. It's dripping drop by drop. And I want to swirl so that the pink disappears before the next drop goes down. Again, if the pink is staying, then that means you're going too fast. If I have some of the base that went on the side of the flask and didn't go into the solution, what you can do is you can always get distilled water and kind of pour it on the side so it takes the base down with it. And as you can see, this takes a long time because you really want to do it drop by drop. So you want at least 2 good trials. So what you could do is you could do it slow like this both times, just for 2 trials, or you could always do 3 trials. 1 doesn't count and you do it kind of fast. And what you do is you just let it in, kind of monitor it, but you're going to go over and it's going to turn like a fuchsia color, which is not something that we want. But what you could do is if you see it turn fuchsia, and let's say that happened at 20 milliliters or something like that, then you know that that's a fast trial. It doesn't count. So the next time you could do 15 milliliters all at once and then go drop by drop after you reach the 15 milliliters. So I'm trying to kind of do it pretty slow. I'm trying to dispense just 1 drop at a time. As you can see, the pink is kind of starting to linger here. And it is hard. It's really hard to get it to do just 1 drop at a time. So it looks like my pink is lingering here. And once you see the pink, you want to swirl for about 30 seconds. Sometimes if there's still some acid that was not dissolved all the way, then as you swirl, it's going to dissolve and it's going to turn colorless again. So you want to swirl for 30 seconds just to make sure that there's no more acid that was not dissolved. I think I added actually maybe a half a drop extra It is a light pink color. It's definitely a good color. The lighter the pink, the better. So then what you do is you record your volume and record it down. Let's say it was 23.05 milliliters, so that's your final volume. So then to get how much was dispensed, you take the final volume minus the initial volume, which was 0.00, subtract those two, and that gives you how much NaOH you've dispensed. Now, let's say the pink is really faint. It's really hard for you to tell. That way you can do is you could record the volume down, add one more drop, and if it was too much, it's going to turn a dark fuchsia. If it's still light pink, then you're still good, obviously. So I do want to show you, if I add a little bit more, what happens to the color. So you can see this is kind of a fairly light pink. If I add just a tiny bit more, it turns into like a dark fuchsia. So really a drop will make a difference, remember, because of that vertical jump in the pH. So you want to catch it right when it's just a kiss of pink. To clean up, if you are done with all your solutions and you don't need to save any of it anymore, all of the solutions can go down the drain with water running. You want to rinse your burette with some water and then open the valve and store it upside down like we saw. All right, have a great day, guys. Bye.